Fashion Anthropology. Fashion Jinrugaku, l'anthropologie de la mode. Je suis Tiffany Godoy. On Fashion Anthropology, we deep dive into the movements and minds shaping fashion culture today. From street to luxe, Shanghai to Paris, underground to legendary. Slam Jam. Connector, patron, platform, movement, attitude. Slam Jam. Slam Jam was founded by Luca Benini in 1989 in the small town of Ferrara, Italy. His mission and obsession to serve the underground. Slam Jam started as the Italian distributor of Stüssy, Carhartt, and Nike, among others. Still working with these major players, the company also thrives on collabs with emerging brands like United Standard, Martine Rose, and Telfar. In 2018, along with Carhartt, Slam Jam opened the impressive art cultural space Spazio Maiocchi in Milan. Independently, Luca Benini is the business partner of Matthew Williams on the brand Alix. In this 5-episode series, we immerse ourselves in the culture of Slam Jam. Slam Jam. We talk to the artists, designers, and OG street scene makers that surround this elusive company. As Slam Jam marks its 30-year milestone, this tribe is as relevant as ever. Fashion Anthropology. Episode 1. Slam Jam and Italy's Fashion DNA.
Antropologia del fashion.
Episode 1. Slam Jam to Italiano Fashion DNA.
Fashion Anthropology. Ciao, I'm Gabriele Casaccia. I'm a Slam Jam curators.
Okay, so we're here at Men's Fashion Week and the Slam Jam showroom is busy. I'm with Gabri, creative director, and we're talking about the future of Slam Jam.
Ciao, Tiffany. So, I don't think that I'm a creative director. I think that I'm a curator about different projects from Slam Jam that came from, sometime consultant for the fashion and from the brand, and probably most deeply into the art side. Our mission, my mission is to engage the community and to develop the Slam Jam world. That is something difficult to explain, but what we try to do is to increase the community. We started from our city with different projects with the retail, and then right now the ambitious project is Spazio Maiocchi. That is something that is probably unusual for a clothing brand, but for us very natural.
Art space Spazio Maiocchi opened in Milan in 2018 in partnership with longtime collaborator Carhartt Work in Progress. Art and cultural magazine Kaleidoscope curates projects in the space and has its office there. But what exactly is Slam Jam?
Oh, what is Slam Jam? It's an incubator of ideas, an incubator of creativity, and that came also from the music. Luca started his company because the music, and then because the music influenced the fashion and was in the past and is also right now, something that is very linked each other.
Right now, Italy seems to play a really, really big part in this shifting of the guard, of this new fashion scene that combines luxury and street fashion. What do you think about that?
For Milan in the 80s was very famous, 80s, 70s, about the fashion. But Luca started in the 90s to sub-brand the US brand.
US brands include Stüssy, Nike, and Carhartt.
Also in the countryside, because, Slam Jam is based in the countryside in Ferrara, that quarter.
Ferrara, 3 hours by car from Milan. Population 132,000. Art and intellectual center during the Italian Renaissance. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Last year we moved because we opened Spazio Maiocchi, the office there, but we were in the city since more than 10 years. We did it also 10 years ago, but probably the city was not so very open for that.
But Slam Jam, from my point of view and what I've experienced, it's a distribution company.
Yes.
Now has an art space along with Carhartt.
Mm-hmm.
It creates collaborations and synergies between brands. It's retail. Now has a brand, Alix.
Yeah, Slam Jam was was born because as a distributor, but also right now, the distributor is something that also changing, during the years and during the time. And so I think that also that the brand that we have in our list is because there is something that match with us. I think it's not like simple distribution, but is to create with the designer and relationship that came from not only the business side, but also because there are the same vibe,
なるほど。So, but how does working with the arts nourish Slam Jam? It's not something that you necessarily have to do. Because in the States and in Japan, you don't really see that strong of a connection between, as much of a connection between the arts and intellectual culture as we do, for example, with Slam Jam and Carhartt. Why is that?
I don't think that there is like a proper reason. I think that is very natural. I think that also, all the artists, or if you're like a good brand, you need the artist, You can also imagine like a t-shirt. A lot of t-shirts are designed by the artist, I think that is something that is very natural. I think that this system needs to be connected with art.
When you work with these brands, you kind of constantly are creating ideas for collaborations, or like a brand would. Is that correct?
It's correct also because if you speak with Luca, he said that he never think about to create a proper brand, Slam Jam brand. Slam Jam is an identity that can be able to, to do like the business part of the distribution, and the other part to be like incubator, for the new generation to connect, tribe of like-minded people.
Slam Jam is an identity to be like incubator, for the new generation to connect, tribe of like-minded people.
I think in our interactions and working together, like, I really felt that you're very much looking forward. You're really into kind of pushing even intellectually the kids and making them think, because it's such a hype moment. I think you're already way past the hype, and you're kind of still trying to nourish street culture and youth culture.
The mission also of Slam Jam have to be educational, for the new generation. The mission also of Slam Jam have to be educational, for the new generation.
Gabri and Slam Jam's flow is intuitive and effortless. But was it always that way? How did Luca Benini manage to create a global cultural movement from a small town in Italy?
Fashion Anthropology. Antropologia della moda.
Italy's top fashion critic, Angelo Flaccavento, walks us through the country's fashion ecosystem to tell us how a company like Slam Jam came to exist. Slam Jam. Connector, patron, platform, movement, attitude. Slam Jam.
Angelo Flaccavento. I call myself a fashion critic because I'm very critical. And I am a columnist for Il Sole 24 Ore, which is the Italian Financial Times, a columnist for the business of fashion, an editor at large at Italian Vogue, and I write in L'Officiel Italia and other publications.
What I wanted us to talk about is, one, the kind of fashion and cultural climate in Italy around the time that Slam Jam started. Maybe you can set the scene for us.
It was mostly designer fashion ruling the scene. It was still huge. It was still the heyday of Prada. Armani was still on a good wavelength. Tom Ford at Gucci was still having his moment. So that was like the scene was dominated by those figures, so that by those characters. So when Slam Jam started and Luca had the idea, he basically started distributing Carhartt and Stüssy in Italy. So he was catering to a different culture of streetwear, which was more American or British, because at the time I remember reading ID and The Face, and they were advertising of these brands that looked so exotic to me as an Italian, not teenager, because I was not let's say young, late teenager. And so I think he had a huge intuition in that sense, because also then in the 00s everything changed in a way, and the whole scene started fragmenting in a way that led to the present.
At that moment, there's the internet, there was luxury fashion also supporting youth culture, and magazines that symbolized youth culture and that were driving it. How do you think it was a catalyst for change in Italian fashion?
Luca once told me in an interview that his main interest was fashion and music. So he understood, because for me, if you link fashion to music, it means that you understand fashion as a visual culture that can set a group apart from the other by adhering to an aesthetic code that's also a musical code.
Ah, je vois.
That set a group apart from the other by adhering to an aesthetic code that's also a musical code. Which is what has made also Slam Jam so international, because having linked fashion to music, so that kind of counterculture or underculture, that it's a mindset that's more British, let's say, or American. So Luca, from the beginning, has built Slam Jam on another code, which is, for me, is what has made it so right away so international. It was importing sportswear and streetwear from America. I think it was not totally underground, but it was something totally on its own. Also, Luca hails from, and Slam Jam hails from Ferrara, which is not that far from Milano, but it's still not Milano. So, and also, I think that people who do not live in Italy cannot understand how provincial life in Italy can lead to very interesting things, because life can be very boring in the by province, I mean a city that's not as big as Milano or Roma or Naples. So you have a lot of time on yourself. You have this hunger to know what's happening outside of your own little bubble, and maybe you end up being more connected to what is happening, let's say, in Tokyo or New York. So I think that a story like Slam Jam and Luca's path into fashion has to do with the place where he is from. Has to do with the place where he is from.
And this idea of tribes is a very key word for streetwear in general, and also for Slam Jam. It's in their kind of slogan and part of their brand code. Can you tell me about this idea of tribes and family in Italian fashion?
I think that British culture is more tribal, Italian culture is more family-oriented. By family-oriented, I mean that there be some kind of blood relation. I think that Slam Jam has played more the tribe game, which means that it has drawn inspirations from, or built its narrative on the idea of creating subcultures by united people who can also not be physically close one to the other, but they are just connected by a family lives under the same roof. A tribe does not necessarily live on the same roof. They're just connected. I'm in Milano, you in Tokyo, we can be the same tribe if we follow one code.
I see.
Creating subcultures by united people who cannot also not be physically close.
And I think art is also a key role in Italian fashion. Prada Foundation is a great example. Can you talk about this relationship that seems to be very prevalent within Italian fashion, and also for Slam Jam with Spazio Maiocchi?
I think in the beginning of Italian fashion, art was not even an option. Prada is pivotal in this sense because of the household Miuccia Prada comes from, which is a bourgeois kind of environment. So they've always collect a certain kind of art, which is not every kind of art. Because the really early steps of Fondazione Prada, which was when the space was not even built, and they had another space, which is where they show a link to the kind of modernist art. So that set Prada apart from the other. It's been really integral to their narrative because it was a very subtle way to say, we know, you don't know. It's very exclusive.
The Prada Foundation launched in 1993. It explores contemporary art and culture. The permanent complex in Milan opened in 2015 and was designed by Rem Koolhaas. It includes a bar designed by film director Wes Anderson, too. The Prada collection is comprised of 20th and 21st century artworks.
For Slam Jam, it's been different because being linked to street culture, they were immediately interested in outsider forms of art. That can also end up being exposed in museums or galleries, but it's more about the fluidity and the richness of street culture, which now is a definition that's almost meaningless because street culture can end up in a important gallery right away. But that link is interesting because it has linked Slam Jam to a kind of very alive, very boiling kind of creativity. So in order to make that appealing, art can be an interesting tool to build narrative or to build an aura around it. So he understood that early on. So his play and his take on art is very different from Prada. But for me, both are very authentic, which is what makes them winning compared to other brands that just play the art card just because it's something of the moment. Imagine that for Slam Jam it's been different because being linked to street culture, they were immediately interested in outsider forms of art.
I think that Luca or the group, they find young designers and they support them on a business level with manufacturing in Italy.
Yes.
Can you talk about that model as well, these kinds of collaborations?
Yes, I think that in that sense the model is very Italian, in the good way. Because basically Luca takes under his wings designers that, like Matthew Williams, that he thinks have an idea. He gives them time to evolve and develop their ideas, which is great. He has not that kind of frenzy for a brand to be immediately profitable or hyper successful, which is great.
How do you think a group like Slam Jam and even like New Guard, and obviously because of the internet, how street fashion and craftsmanship are colliding, and Italy's role within that, and Slam Jam's role within that?
Slam Jam's role has been huge. Also New Guard, because they've been at the forefront with the Off-White and then County of Milan, Heron Preston, Palm Angels. I think in a way that this whole streetwear mentality, Italian craft is somehow integrated, but it's not the main resource because it's a narrative and a character that is still used more in high fashion, and also I think it's an element that doesn't speak that much to the audience. I can see an interesting collision in a brand like Alix because basically it's a functional brand run with the designer's mind.
Italian craft is somehow integrated, but it's not the main resource. It's not the main resource.
That really they are connected. I think that the strength of Luca is that he oversees things, but he trusts a lot the people around him, and he's very able to connect with people that on their turn can connect him to what's happening around. it's completely different. But a brand like Armani is still run in the family business sense, in the sense that Mr. Armani is the boss and the pater familias, as we say. So it's like, I decide. Even if I'm wrong, I decide. Luca is more alternative in that sense. It would be that kind of father that lets you smoke a joint at the dinner table with no problem. I mean, of course, can be scientifically proven, but I think that brands or operation have a kind of DNA which depends on the person who founds them. Because Luca is a very elusive character. It seems like that things happen to him, cool things happen to him, and there is that kind of chaos that in the end is productive.
There is that kind of chaos that in the end is productive.
Thanks for listening to Fashion Anthropology. More episodes on Slam Jam are available now. Get to know more members of the tribe. Deep dive into the culture of this legendary company that paved the way for the European streetwear scene. Fashion Anthropology, édité par Frank Haderer. Music, criss-crosses. Keep listening to HYPEBEAST Radio. HYPEBEAST Radio, kite kudasai. Fashion Anthropology.